Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name's Emma and I help people to heal from chronic dizziness such as PPPD. If you're new here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you want to see more videos that can help you to heal from dizziness. And if you like the video, please like it because it will help it to reach more people. So in this video today, I want to talk about my recovery story and how I overcome PPPD. So for the purpose of this video, I'm just going to be sharing the most significant parts of my healing journey. I feel like I could talk for hours about how I actually overcome PPPD, and I want to keep this video short and concise and to be able to just give you guys my top tips and what I did to recover. So the PPPD started for me back in 2017, and the symptoms I had was generally a constant sense of motion. It was a 24/7 feeling of just feeling not quite right, feeling like I was swaying, rocking, being pulled from side to side. I had moments where I felt like as if I was walking on the moon, where the ground underneath me just didn't feel like it was stable and still. As time went on, this progressed into a lot of anxiety. I didn't have any anxiety before, but it did progress into anxiety after around a year, and then that became a real significant part of the PPPD at the time. And I also become very fearful of places, so I was starting to associate certain things with feeling dizzy, and I was starting to check in with myself a lot of saying, if I do this, am I going to feel dizzy? Am I going to be able to cope? And kind of catastrophizing over situations. I was in a really negative headspace with it. And also there was no support anywhere from my doctors. There was nothing online. Back in 2017, there was very little information out there on the internet about PPPD. I searched YouTube and I could not find anything at that time. All I could find when I Googled my symptoms were people on there telling me that they were that they'd had similar dizziness sensations and that they'd had it for years and years, and basically you just have to learn to live with it. So it was a really tough time for me. It was very isolating. It's very scary. But that's kind of enough about the symptoms. I really want this video to focus on my recovery. So for me, after around 2 years of kind of not really knowing what to do or not knowing what was wrong with me, I actually came across a lady called Joey Remini on YouTube, and there was a particular video that she had and I felt like she was talking directly to me. She completely described all of my symptoms and the way I was feeling, the fact that all my medical tests were coming back clear, which for me was just really strange for me, and apparently that's very normal with PPPD. And she shares a lot of videos on her channel about neuroplasticity. She had a course available at the time, which I think she still does now, but it was really expensive and I couldn't afford to do it. So her way of healing lots of vestibular conditions and tinnitus is using a process called neuroplasticity, which is your brain's ability to change and rewire itself. So I decided to take matters into my own hands because I wasn't getting any help from the doctors, and generally I was being let down by everybody around me. So I decided to go away and learn everything that I could about neuroplasticity. The first book I read was by somebody called Shad Helmstetter, The Power of Neuroplasticity, and this really gave me a good indication about what it actually was and how I could use it and implement it on my healing journey. It did make me feel excited, but also there was some hesitation because I really wasn't sure if I could buy into it at the time, that this was actually going to work for me. But I decided that that was going to be my best shot and that I needed to just learn everything that I could and just give it a go. So one thing that neuroplasticity really taught me was that I was spending so much time focusing on the symptoms and focusing on what was wrong. And actually neuroplasticity is about focusing on your desired sensations and how you want to feel. So that really encouraged me to think about, well, what is it that actually I want, and what do I want from life? What do I want from my body, and how do I actually want to feel? So that encouraged me to start being curious with that, and I felt as though I wasn't really getting any relief from my symptoms. But when I started to develop this awareness about how I was feeling moment to moment, I was aware that there were actually certain things that I was doing that maybe gave me a little bit of relief. So for example, being in the bath or having a shower. That was quite a safe place for me. It was somewhere like I felt like I could relax and unwind, and my symptoms would really die down in that place, and that was something that I realised. Also walking my dogs. I love my dogs. I love being outside, and I've got beautiful countryside near me, and I realised that even though I was actually quite symptomatic when I was walking, I felt really calm. And feeling calm was kind of a big thing for me. I really wanted to just feel calm. So I decided to start taking baths more, like every night rather than now and again. I was more of a kind of like a quick shower person. I was just making time to have a longer bath and just enjoy that space for me at the end of the day. And I was walking my dogs every day anyway, but I was really trying to just make the most of feeling how it was that I wanted to feel. So neuroplasticity really encouraged me to get off the subject of dizziness, even though that was obviously really difficult for most of the time, but instead allowed me to kind of explore what felt good to me and just kind of become more focused on the solution rather than the problem. So another significant part of my healing journey was actually changing my mindset around my symptoms. So before I had the PPPD, I was always a very happy, upbeat, positive person, very motivated and very driven, very enthusiastic. And when I went through the PPPD, it just absolutely knocked my confidence. It made me very negative. I kind of went on a path of self-destruction where nobody could kind of talk me around or cheer me up about it. I felt like no one really understood what I was going through. And I knew that my mindset was in a really bad place. And, you know, as I said, I was very focused on the symptoms. I was very aware of the symptoms, checking in on them all the time. And I felt very hopeless and helpless and stuck, which obviously wasn't helping me, but I couldn't really find a way out of that at the time. So my mum actually started sending me some Abraham Hicks videos, and I'd never heard of this person before. It's a lady called Esther Hicks, and she channels Abraham, and it's in the simplest form. You can go and check her out. She talks a lot about the law of attraction and about raising your vibration, and what you put out to the universe, you get back. And what this actually encouraged me to do, because at the time I didn't really buy into it, but I did listen to some of the videos and they did make sense. Now, of course, they're obviously not about dizziness in any way, but one of the big things that she talks about and what it encourages is for you to actually take ownership of how you feel. And actually, it's not anybody else's responsibility to make you feel good about yourself. It's very much how you perceive situations and how you react in situations. So that made sense to me for my healing journey, because I thought, I'm actually being really negative and it's not helping. It's not made me get any better. So how can I shift my mindset to be more positive and more solution focused? So I listened to hundreds and hundreds of hours of the Abraham Hicks videos on YouTube. She talks about all different things, from relationship issues to money to careers and jobs, to health. But like I said, nothing really specific on the dizziness. But I listened to so much of it that I actually knew what she would say before she actually said it. And then before I knew it, that was the way that I was actually speaking to myself. And actually, when I was having a bad day, I stopped just letting the day completely ruin me, and instead just thought, I'm allowed to be in this bad space for now, but what can I do to actually make myself feel better? And that's nobody else's job but mine to be able to do that. So one of the things I think she shares in one of her books is to do with the emotional scale. So it's about, if you're in a really negative place, that you can't just get to a really positive place. It's just not emotionally possible to make that big of a jump. So what she encourages you to do is to move down the emotional scale. So let's just say you were feeling really angry about your symptoms. Well, you can't go from feeling really angry to feeling really happy about your symptoms. So instead, you go from feeling angry to maybe a bit frustrated. Now that seems a bit more doable. So I really bought into this and thought, well, it's only really small steps that I actually need to be able to make. And over a period of time, I did manage to do this. I did manage to change my attitude around my symptoms. I stopped victimizing myself. I stopped talking about it and really just started focusing on what I could do to feel better. And of course, I never got to a point where I felt super excited about feeling dizzy, but I definitely got to a place where I was really not bothered anymore and much more of a neutral neutral space to be, which I think was incredibly helpful to my healing, because it stopped me associating the dizziness as being something that was really dangerous. So it took a long time. And like I said, I listened to hours and hours and hours of these videos. And that was just something that really helped to shift my mindset, which was really implicating my healing journey at that time. One thing that she also talks about, if you're really struggling to feel better about a really specific situation, is to go more general. So if you can't feel good about the dizziness itself, move to a more generic situation, like your life in general. How is your life in general? And if you're still struggling to do that, then just write a list of things that you're grateful for and things that you appreciate, because everybody can feel gratitude and appreciation about something in their life. So that really helped me. If I was having a really bad day, couldn't get out of the subject of dizziness or feel neutral about it, was just kind of going more general and just reminding myself that outside of that, I actually had a good life and good relationships, and things that I could be thankful for. So the next thing that helped me on my healing journey is a really big one, and that was learning about my nervous system and how to regulate it. So I've spoken on this channel before that it was very much a self-study program for me. I did all my research myself. I never had a coach. I never did a program. I read just tons and tons of books. So alongside the neuroplasticity books, that then got me realizing that actually this was really affecting my nervous system, or coming from my nervous system as like a stress and anxiety response that was reinforcing those dizziness signals. So I started to learn as much as I could about the nervous system, like what it was and what it was that was responsible for making me feel a particular way in my body. So for me, I was dizzy all the time, but I definitely had situations when I felt like the dizziness would increase. And when the dizziness would increase, it would make me really panicky. And of course, I didn't know why that was. But learning about my nervous system helped me to realize that actually it was the fight-flight response that was being triggered inside my body. It was something that was happening automatically, and it wasn't something that I could think or talk myself out of at the time. It was something that I really needed to learn to feel inside my body and to work with my body in order to help it to feel safe, so that the fight-flight response could switch off and allow me to feel calm again. So this was absolutely huge, because after a period of time, I was feeling really panicky pretty much every day, and I didn't know how to deal with it. And what I did actually do was I used to get up and move around. If I was at work, I would go to the bathroom, or I would go and get a glass of water, and basically anything to avoid actually sitting with those emotions and feelings in my body. And all that was doing was actually reinforcing the fear. So it was an absolutely kind of crucial part of my healing journey to learn to actually sit with those difficult emotions and sensations. And at the time, it was really, really difficult, to be honest. It was just overwhelming at times, but I knew that it was what I had to do, and I knew that if I did it regularly, that it would get easier, and it did. And I started to view every kind of increase in dizziness symptoms as an opportunity to respond differently. And that's the thing with neuroplasticity. You have to change in order to see change. And I knew that what I was doing up until that point wasn't working. So if I could respond differently and change my response, then could that change the way my body was responding as well? And that was absolutely the case. It was a very long process, and I had to sit through a lot of panicky, really strong, dizzy moments, but it did get easier as time went on. So I was starting to find that the dizzy spells weren't as intense, and then they got less frequently. So it wasn't like they disappeared overnight. So all I would do, let's just say again, if I was in work, like work was a really big situation for me. I always felt panicky on edge at work. It was bright lights, computer screens, people. No one in my work actually knew what I was going through either. So it was kind of this big secret. And every time I felt really dizzy, there wasn't anybody that I could talk to about it, because no one knew. So when I was at work, I would be sat at my desk, I would feel myself starting to get a bit dizzy, and I would immediately just check in with my breath, check in with my body. And just, from a thought perspective, I would just say, you're safe, this is temporary, it will pass. And obviously, the more that I could focus on remaining calm, the less of a kind of panic dizzy episode it became. And it was really as simple as that, just focusing on my breath, just staying sat still and not distracting myself or moving around, and waiting for the dizzy sensations to pass, which of course they did. And it got to the point where they just stopped happening altogether. And I've not had one of those dizzy episodes now for years. So it was something that I overcome. And like I said, it really did take a long time, but I did get there in the end. So the last thing I want to talk to you about in terms of what helped me the most on my dizziness recovery was home-based practices. So after a couple of years of the dizziness, when I came across neuroplasticity and the Joey Remini videos, she was talking about doing a body scan and how body scans can help you to recover from dizziness. So the body scan was the first home-based practice that I did. If you don't know what a body scan is, it's basically just closing your eyes and you feel into different parts of your body. It's a mindfulness-based practice. You start from your feet and work the way up your legs, across your stomach, your back, up to your face and your head. And this practice may take somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes. So that was what I started to do. Like when I came home from work, I'd had a really long day. I was quite stressed out and tired. And it was just something that helped me to relax and feel into my body and help to reinforce those safety signals, and that I could be with my body and my body sensations and that they were safe. I also did somatic tracking, which at the time I didn't know there was a name for it, but I did spend a lot of time just sitting still with my eyes closed and noticing the sensations that were going on in my body, coming from a place of non-judgment. So not trying to label the sensations as good or bad, not trying to do anything with them, just simply accepting them for what they were and just letting the dizziness do its thing and just holding a bit of space for that and doing that regularly. So I did that maybe every day or every other day. I also got quite into meditation. Meditation was something that I never really had done before, but it was something I started to incorporate into my daily routine. I was not somebody that ever did really long meditations, maybe 10 or 15 minutes. And I really enjoyed doing these at bedtime. I find that they really helped me calm down enough to be able to sleep. So meditation was another home-based practice that I did. I also did like a tap-in routine. There's a video on my channel where I talk you through this. It's essentially just tapping on the area of discomfort on your body, which for me was on my chest. And there's actually 2 tapping points here, which I would tap on, and this helped to alleviate some of my anxiety symptoms and to soothe my body, and it just made me feel a little bit more comfortable in my own skin. I didn't really do vestibular exercises. I did try them and they weren't really effective for me. They're not actually effective for everybody. So if you've tried them and they've not worked for you, it's not you. It's not that you're doing anything, it's not that your body isn't responding to them. It's just that they don't always work for everybody. One tip that I would say is to make sure that you're bringing yourself into a really calm space before you attempt to do the exercises, because it will help your brain be more receptive to the learning process of doing it. If you're feeling really anxious and worked up and you're in the fight-flight response, that part of your brain, which is designed for memory and learning, actually just gets shut off. So it just means that the exercises won't be effective. The exercises weren't effective for me, and maybe that was a part of it, that I was just spending a lot of time in the fight-flight response. But one exercise that I did do frequently was the spins. So what I would do is I would stand and close my eyes and I would spin clockwise or anti-clockwise once, and then I would stop and put my hands on my hips and I would just feel any dizzy sensations and wait for them to calm down. Depending on how I was feeling that day, I could do 1, 2 or 3 spins. I used to change it up. Obviously I didn't do this every day. It was just maybe something I did once or twice a week. But for me, this did actually provoke quite a lot of dizziness, and I felt sometimes like it would spiral and it would get really crazy inside my head. So I knew that it was something that I needed to practice. Sometimes it would take 5 or 10 minutes for the dizziness to actually really calm down. But what I realized I was doing at that time was I was really expanding my body's ability to actually be with the dizziness and not be afraid of it. So I made sure that I was calm and relaxed and that I didn't react to the dizziness or the fact that it was spiraling out of control. I just remained calm and just trusted my body that the dizziness would die down and it would just disappear again, because my body knows what it needs to do and wants to be able to feel normal. So I trusted that process, and I found that as time went on, I become less sensitive to the spins and I recovered quicker. And yeah, it was something that I needed to practice, and I found that it just helped to deliver that message of safety back to my brain. Kind of the neuroplasticity process of wiring it in that the dizziness was safe. So the last practice I did was actually one that helped me to overcome the feeling of motion when I was sat still. So this was the most bothersome symptom to me, that every time I was sat still, I just felt like there was some kind of movement going on in my body. So this was after I'd kind of really started to get a handle on the anxiety side of things, and I wasn't getting the real increases in the dizziness going up and down, but it was that lingering sensation of movement that took a really long time to go. So what I did was I set aside 15 minutes every single day, and I just closed my eyes and I did very slow, steady head movements from left to right. And I would take moments to pause and just check in with my body and just notice any sensations that were there. And I really kind of leaned into it. So I was curious, and I really just focused on lowering my breath as low as possible so that I could get into an almost meditative kind of state where I felt really calm. And I just focused on parts of my body that felt more still and more quiet. And I did that every single day. And within 3 months, that feeling of movement had completely resolved and gone away. So that practice was huge for me. It really helped me to overcome that sense of motion that I was having that was really niggling and really annoying. But yeah, every day, 15 minutes, it wasn't anything crazy I needed to do. I just stuck with it, made sure I did it every day, and then that symptom went away. So throughout my recovery journey, I was obviously experimenting with lots of different things. Obviously, what I've just explained in my video were the things that helped me the most. And the one thing that I realized as time went on was that the thing that all of those things actually had in common was that it was helping to send a message of safety back to my brain and body. And that actually by focusing on the dizziness wasn't helpful, catastrophizing about the dizziness wasn't helpful, but actually learning ways to feel my desired sensations, learning how to manage the dizziness when it came up, and being able to sit with the difficult feelings and emotions. All of that was just telling myself that actually I'm safe and I'm okay, and it's not something that I need to be afraid of. And that is why I truly believe I recovered. And it's also why I believe I won't relapse, and I haven't relapsed. Lots of people ask me all the time, did I have relapses? Well, I did have relapses when I was recovering, but when I got to a point where I was just feeling normal again and having very, very rare, small amounts of dizziness on very rare occasions, I didn't relapse. And I feel like it's because the neural pathways that I created in my brain were strong and dominant, and that the dizzy, panicky ones were just so weak because I wasn't using them anymore and I wasn't focusing on them, that a relapse wasn't just going to suddenly happen out of the blue, because it spent me a really long time to create those new pathways in my brain. And I do really want to emphasize that actually my recovery was not an easy one. I am human, and I had bad days, bad weeks. I had times where I felt like I wanted to give up. I had times when I felt like it wasn't working. I had times when I thought maybe other people get better from this, and my brain is somehow broken and it is not going to work for me, or maybe it's not going to help me recover to a level where I just feel normal again. So there was a lot of uncertainty, and there was times that were actually quite scary for me, and it did take me a really long time to recover. There are people that I know that have actually recovered in a much quicker time than me. It took me a good couple of years until I could say that I felt normal again. But I did get there. So if that's you and you feel like you've been doing all of the right things and you're talking to yourself and responding to your body with self-compassion and self-kindness, and you're being persistent with the things that you know you need to do, but maybe you're not there yet, maybe you just need to give it a bit more time. I would really encourage you to just stick at it and to continue to trust your body, because it can take a really long time for some people. And also, I will say that actually I did take breaks from really focusing on my healing. There were times when I didn't want to do any practices. I didn't want to meditate. I didn't want to read any books. I didn't want to kind of be focusing on what I was trying to overcome all the time. So, and I think that was actually quite a big step in my recovery journey as well, because I did have maybe a couple of occasions where for just a couple of months, I just went out and lived my life just the best I could. And yes, symptoms were there, but they weren't completely overwhelming and ruining the experience for me. And I didn't feel normal. And there were times where I didn't feel great, but I just thought I need to go and make the best of it. And I think that in those times, I still recovered and I still made improvements. And I think it's because I actually wasn't kind of focusing on the dizziness all the time. I was just accepting that it was there, it was in the background, and there was nothing that I needed to do about it. I could just let it be there. And that was a really significant part of my journey, being able to do that. I think a lot of people can be really obsessed about having a list of things they need to do every day and ticking them off, and not going to bed until they've done them all, and they do them several times a day. And that's great if that feels good to you and it helps you to feel motivated and to stay on track. But don't forget that this can also keep you focused on what's wrong, and the fact that you're maybe trying to fix something. And that's what I would say is there's nothing that you actually need to fix. If what you're doing is if you're doing things because you're trying to get rid of something, then you're still convincing yourself that you're sick, or you're still convincing yourself that there's something that you need to fix. So the way to look at it instead is that to do things to make you feel better, to soothe your body, to soothe any anxiety, and to do things and activities that feel good to you and help you to be the person that you actually want to be. So try to look at it from that perspective rather than focusing on what's wrong or trying to get rid of symptoms. And I would encourage you to also take some time off to just go away and live your life the best you can, and accept that maybe there will be some symptoms there, but that's okay. I get asked this a lot of the time: how am I doing now? Well, for the first couple of years after I overcome the PPPD, I still did have occasions where I would maybe feel a little bit off or a little bit dizzy. There were some sensitivities there when I was doing certain things, if I was feeling ill or tired or unwell, or stressed out or anxious. But as time went on, I actually became much more resilient to stress, and the symptoms kind of cropped up less and less, to the point now it is very rare that I actually feel any symptoms at all. Day to day, I feel great. I feel normal. I don't have any dizziness. I don't think about dizziness. And this is so huge for me, because I was somebody that the moment I opened my eyes in the morning, I was checking to see if the dizziness was there, or I was worrying about how bad the dizziness was going to be that day. Every time I walked into work, every time I walked into the supermarket, every time I was meeting friends, I always worried about how the dizziness was going to show up. I don't have any of that now. I feel normal. I feel great. I feel really comfortable and safe in my body. I'm enjoying and living my life as I did before the dizziness started, except I have a whole new level of self-compassion for myself. I went on an incredibly tough journey. It was incredibly isolating, and I had no support. And that was probably one of the toughest bits of my journey, was not really having anybody that really understood what I was going through. But I did it and I made it. And, I have a huge amount of empathy and self-compassion for myself and for anybody else that's going through a similar situation where they're in the thick of it and they don't know what to do and they're feeling stuck. I know how it feels to be there, but to be able to come out of that and know that I did that myself is absolutely huge. And it makes me so proud of myself that I was able to overcome something that was just completely ruining my life. And the best part of all is that I now actually get to help other people to overcome their chronic dizziness too. And that's been a hugely rewarding part of my journey for me. Almost I feel like I was meant to go through it so that I could start to help other people. And I just felt like, because it affected my life in such a way, I didn't want to just turn my back on it, knowing there was all these other people out there struggling, because I know that there is so much negativity online, and you can go online and convince yourself that this is something you're going to be stuck with and you're going to have it forever. So I wanted to be a voice and to create a platform where I can actually let people know that I've gone through this myself. I know how it feels. I know how stuck you might feel, but it doesn't need to be forever, and that actually you can overcome it. You can make significant improvements. You can get your life back and you can feel normal, just like I am now. I'm living a normal, happy, healthy life. And, you know, that's down to neuroplasticity. It's down to rewiring my brain, my nervous system. Is about changing the way that I spoke to myself. It was about dedicating myself some time to home practices, and also taking time to go out and live my life and just not care about whether the dizziness was there or not. So that was the most significant part of my healing journey. Obviously, like I said, I could talk for hours about this sort of thing. There is obviously more smaller things that helped me along the way as well that was really important to me. But for the purpose of this video today, I hope you guys find it helpful. If you've got any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. I am still coaching, guys, so if you feel like you want to have some one-to-one support, please send me an email. It's info@balanceyourlifenow.co.uk, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.